Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. I just felt like coming along and doing a little bit of creative time. I've got no idea what I'm creating, but I thought I would grab some black Thrinchies. And I actually need a new book, so bear with me. So just grab a new Thrinchie book, and we've got our Thrinchies that I just love these. I absolutely love them. I've got them many pages left, and these are everything that I've been doing, and I'm loving looking back on them. It's really fab. And then I've got a book with my ticketed snippets in, like so. I love these as well. I love having little books that just give me a snippet of an idea that's so textural. That's obviously the last one. Do you know, I was thinking I did another ticketed snippet, but that's obviously the last one. So we need to do some more ticketed snippets. But I've also got a journal somewhere with my snippets in. No idea where that is, but no worries. So I thought I'd just have a play. Now, I'm not going to number the black ones. The black ones I'm going to have a bit of fun with and just enjoy myself. If you want to play along, that's great. If you don't, that's great. No problem at all. But what I do want to do is I want to make sure that I do use products that I actually have in my shop. So I do want to make sure I use those. So I've got this piece of Pink Frog super smooth card, 4x6 black card. I've got brown ink on there. Now the reason I've got 4x6 black card is that I cut some black card the wrong size a long time ago, and I thought, well, I'm not wasting them. Let's just give that a wipe. So I'm just going to have that so it catches some of the extra. Let's grab a little bit of copier paper as well, because you never know what background you can make. So I've got two black Thrinchies here, and they're true black. And what I thought I'd do is we'll play with our Distress Spritz, can't speak. And I'm going to, so this is fossilised amber. So I think I'll then have a little bit of salvage patina. We'll have a little bit of salvage patina. What else shall we have? I think I'll have a little bit, oh look, I've not even opened seedless preserves. So let's open seedless preserves. Note to self, always open the packaging before you set the video going. Too late now. And you know me by now, I don't edit it out. You just have to watch me getting rid of packaging. So let's just get that mica going. You can see I'm shaking it side to side, like so. And let's have some of that. Ooh, that's nice. Ooh, yes, I like that colour. Seedless preserves. And then picked raspberry. So let's add a little bit of picked raspberry. What else have we got? We've got peeled paint. Oh, here we go again. Spot the person that's not checked her containers. You just really can't get, you know, a professional video from Tracy at all. You know, she doesn't even undo her packaging. And if you've got these Pergamano scissors, be careful when you're opening the packaging, because trust me, they're super sharp. And all you have to do is ask me why I'm telling you that. And it makes for an interesting video watching somebody unpack. There we go. So we've got a little bit of peeled paint. Oh, I like that colour and all. So I'm just going to leave those there just to do its thing. Now, when I was showing the black Thrinchies previously, I added some colours to the Thrinchie. And can you see they're all the Distress Spritz? Just lovely. And what I like is you can actually, let's move that one so it's just drying a bit. You can actually add colour again on the top. So I can add a little bit of colour on the top, and say I want a little bit of pink on there, you can still come in and add that over the top. Oh, I like adding the pink over the top. That's nice. I do talk to myself a heck of a lot, but I'm pretending that, you know, you're listening. So I've now got Salvage Patina. So I can come in and just add little bits of the colour over the top. Now this purple that was already on there was Wilted Violet. So let's put some of that Seedless Preserve on there because it's a little bit darker, that is. Now, I let that one dry naturally and the colour was lovely and intense. So let's dry those and see the colours then. So let's give those a dry. It's actually twinkling. As I'm heating, I can see the twinkle. So this is just my playtime. My husband's watching sport on the TV, yawn. So it's my ideal time to have a little bit of a play. Plus I've had, I've been doing paperwork this morning. Oh, I can't tell you how boring that is. Now what I'm trying to see here is, as I add layers, because I'm a big fan of adding layers, I want to see if I get that more intensity of the colour. So let's add a little bit more of Salvage Patina. Any other colours I want to add? Twisted Citron. Let's see if that's what that colour's like. And then let's give this a dry. And it's lovely to have something for black card, just so you can create something on black, just to give you a different feel, and also to use your products in a different way, and it refreshes your enthusiasm for our hobby, the craft. So I've got them dried. And I definitely do think as you're adding layers, you're adding that intensity of colour. Now, this is my overspill piece, so it seems a shame to waste that. So let's add, oh, let's get our, I know, bear with me. Let's get our little puffer. And you can blow those. Now, when it's playtime with me, don't expect the video to be a short video, because when I'm playing, I get engrossed. Oh, yes, I like using the... So let's use a little bit of picked raspberry. Let's just move those again. So we can move them. Wonderful. So you see, I'm enjoying playing too much. Peacock feathers. Let's have a little look at that. Let's move that around. Oh, let's move that around a little bit. Obviously, you don't need to move it around if you don't wish. I'm having far too much fun. So shall we use the Seedless Preserves? I quite liked that colour. It's quite strong, that colour is. Nice strong colour. So what else? Oh, I just need a little bit more fossilised amber, I think. I'm liking the layering the colour. I quite like layering the colour. So we'll just leave that to dry a moment. You can see I'm having far too much fun. Let's grab another piece of black card or a Thrinchie, and what shall we have? I know. Let's grab... Tracy can't make a mind. Can you spot the person that cannot make a mind up? Which one? I know. Let's have... I've got too much stuff everywhere. This is what... Where's my stencils? Where's my stencils? Spot the person that... I'm after my bigger stencils, and of course they're at the top. There we go. So if we take... Let's take the silhouette balloon, for instance. So let's add this to a piece of black card, and let's just mask that off, that area there. I'm going to end up with, I'm even putting my card on there. So and you can see I'm just having a play. So let's place the stencil on here, and then let's place it a bit more up there. You really need to sort of mask off your area. So let's start with, where have you gone? Fossilised amber. So let's try fossilised amber. Shall we try a little bit of picked raspberry? Then a little bit of twisted citron. I haven't even got the lid on that. Don't forget to just give your containers a little bit of a wipe when you have finished. Let's use peacock feathers. Can you see sometimes I just add a little bit? So then I'm going to have salvaged patina. Let's add a little bit more there. And then shall we have some Seedless Preserves? There we go. So before I do that, shall I get another piece of black card? So I'll get another piece of black card, and let's place that on the top. Just see if we can mop up any extra of the ink. Let's lift that up. Let's just mop up a little bit of extra ink, just so you can see. So that could be, I could then add the magnolia on the top. This is where I end up with too many pieces. So let's just lift this. There we go. So I've got the magnolia. I've also got the ink on here that I could quite easily put on another piece of black card. So we'll just give this, you can see, look, even on white card, I've taken a print on white paper and it's still there. So let's just give that a little bit of a clean, because Tracy's got stuff everywhere. Look, you can still see this ink on there. And I've got this card here and I'm going to leave that just to dry on its own. So let's bring in our pieces that we've coloured. And definitely by adding layers, it really gives that vibrancy of the colour. Where have you gone? By adding layers, you can see the greens, the pinks, the blues, the purples, the fossilised amber that has got like that goldy colour. And the other one here. So let's have a look at what we can do. So let's just dry these now. Let's give these a dry. I'm leaving that just to dry naturally on its own a little bit. I'm just going to dry this just so that it's fully dry, really. Just so that I can work on it a little bit more. And I'm not dabbing anything off there. I'm just drying just so I can do a little bit more work. There we go. So I've got a little bit of wet there, but that doesn't matter. So what am I going to use? This is the hardest part now. What am I going to use? Let's just, have I got anything? Let's just grab what I've got on my desk. It's on my desk, so I'm going to use it. I'm using the Abutilon. So let's take the Abutilon stamp. Flecking bits everywhere. So let me just see if I just, yeah. So I'm going to take the Abutilon stamp. Not that one, Tracy. I'm going to take the Abutilon, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe over this with my anti-static bag. I mean, I've got a little bit of moisture on there, so let's give that a dry. Just because of that anti-static bag. And I don't really want to dab it because I don't want to take the colour away. There we go. So then I'm going to take the Abutilon. So I'm going to use my anti-static bag and I'm going to wipe over that because you've seen that I've used loads of wet ink. I've had my fingers all over it. So I'm just going to use the anti-static bag. No idea if things are going to work because I'm just playing. I'm going to use my Versamark ink. Now I've got everything everywhere. So let's take that Versamark. Lots of dabbing. Mainly because it's got a lot of detail on that stamp. So let's take that Versamark. And I'm going to just stamp that, just part of it. Shall I have it that side? Yeah. So just part of it on my black Thrinchie. And just add part of that. Just give that a little bit of time. just to make an impression on my card. There we go. Can't see a thing on there because you never can. Have I got that scrap paper somewhere? And you can see my scrap paper on the white. You've got the bits of shimmer as well. So I'm going to take my opaque bright white embossing powder. And you can see straight away if you've got anything that you really shouldn't have on there. You know, any stray embossing powder that you shouldn't have on there. So just take a look and make sure you've got no stray embossing powder that isn't really needed on there. And then we'll give that a heat. So just melting that embossing powder just so that we've got that glossy finish. Woo! Got my glossy finish on there. And then what I'm going to do is let's grab an acrylic block. I'll keep grabbing that one. A paint palette, whatever you've got. Then I'm going to take, come on Tracy. I'm going to take a little bit more of the picked raspberry. I'm going to spritz this on here. And then I'm going to use a paintbrush. So let's take the paintbrush. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the pink. I'm going to come in with a little bit of the pink and just colour. Obviously the embossing will resist that, so you can go straight over the embossing, no problem at all, because it will just resist it. So I'm just coming in, and again, no different than if I was using my pencils, just coming in with layers of that colour. So just adding more layers of the pinky colour. Okay, I'm then going to bring in some fossilised amber. Preferably shake your bottle when the lid is on. Unlike me, you've just shaken the bottle with the lid. There we go. Not even going to clean my brush. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the fossilised amber as well. So I'm just making it so that the colour will stand out a little bit more with those distress spritz. Just to give it, and you can just literally go straight over your project. You can go straight over that. I'm then going to come to my pink again and just add a little bit more of the pink. There we go. And then I'm just going to leave that, I'm leaving everything on. I'm just going to leave that on one side. And then with this, I'm just going to add a few splatters to my project because I'm not going to waste the pigment that is on my non-stick craft sheet. So I've got a lovely background here because I'm not wasting that. Okay, so I've I've used sort of most of that anyway. So let me just make sure my acrylic block is nice and clean, seeing as how I spent ages cleaning these, and you can see why my acrylic block's getting a mess. I'm just going to give that a dry. Let's move that one away. And I'll give this magnolia a dry as well. Just give these a dry. Let's give this a dry because I'm going to put the stencil over this. Some things will work out, some things won't. But that's how you develop something of your own. And it doesn't mean it's a waste of time, because without playing, you don't sort of develop new ideas. And you can see that I'm not bothered about the run out of ink from the stencil. That's just all part of the background. So I'm then going to take, she says confidently, the magnolia stencil. Now, which way did we had it? We had it that way, didn't we? Do you like how I'm not convinced? So it's around about there, isn't it? So I'm going to take the magnolia stencil, and then I'm going to grab one of my blending brushes. Now I want to use just a small blending brush. So then I'll keep this blending brush just for VersaFine. Did I wipe the anti-static bag over? Did I, heck? So let's grab the anti-static bag. We can dust this again. We can dust the powder off. Right, so let's place that back over again. Oh, now I've got an itchy eye. Isn't that typical? It doesn't matter if you're slightly, you know, if you're off. It really doesn't matter because that's in the background. Okay, we'll go with that. I've got nowhere to put my ink pad. So this is my VersaFine. And I'm going to just add a little bit of VersaFine ink. VersaFine. Versamark. I'm going to add a little bit of Versamark just to now you could press your ink pad on there, but the problem is you're going to cover the whole thing. I personally don't want that. I'm just plain, but I don't want to cover the whole thing with Versamark. And because I'm using that fine brush, it'll only pick up so much ink. It's not going to cover the whole area. I don't know how much I've covered and how much I haven't. We didn't add much of the stem, did we? So shall we just add a little bit of ink to the stem? Now I don't know whether this will work or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the stencil in place. So let's just add a little bit. There we go. And we're going to pick this up. Let's just tip that all back on there. You can see some has stuck to my stencil. Don't worry, we can just clean that. you see, it's covered all of my, where are we going to put this? Where's it gone? My stencil. And that'll be because it's still wet. So I'm going to grab a little brush and I'm going to faff. So I'm going to just remove some of this. Just so that some of that colour is visible. And if you think about it, I didn't add the embossing powder all to this area. But I'm just going to clean this up, because this is what I want to do. So I just want to leave a little bit of a white outline. Now, you know how you could do this, don't you, without this issue? You could use the pen. There's actually a Versamark pen. So if you use the Versamark pen, then you're not going to get this. Well, as long as your card's dry, you're not going to get this. So you can see I'm just cleaning up this. So let's just get rid of that so I don't keep picking that up. So I'm just doing this so that I've got some of the areas open. So some of that. And I'll show you the pen I'm talking about, because yes, I've actually got one. I don't use it much, but I've actually got one. And you can see, even though I dried the card, how wet that card is. And you saw me use an anti-static bag as well. But that's because obviously that stays a little bit wetter. And what you have to remember is, by playing, you develop other ideas. So let's just... So what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up, just so that I've got some of the areas visible with that lovely ink. And can you see here, I've got a little bit of the white missing. That doesn't matter. The point is, you've just got some of it giving it definition. There we go. And you don't want to heat that until you've removed some of that. There we go. But you can see then, I'm trying to make it so some of the lovely iridescence of the, you know, the shimmer, that is visible. So I'm just spending some time, you know, just cleaning it up a little bit. because just like I've done with the other floral, I'm going to add more shimmer. And I don't want the white embossing too thick, as in loads of that white embossing. Now you can see you've got bits of shimmer outside the flower. There we go. And it's not as if it's takes a million minutes to do it. Just so, let's have a look. And the problem is, honestly, I'm like a dog with a bone. I can faff forever. I don't mind some little bits, but I just want it so that the shimmer is showing mainly. Okay, so let's give this a heat now. So let's heat our embossing. Oh, hang on a minute, I don't want that. I've got a bit of embossing here. Let me just wipe that away. Let's give this a dry. Now I'm not going, don't forget, I'm not going for a perfect edge. That's the whole point. So once that starts sort of melting, move to the next area so you don't sort of overheat that. There we go. It does help if your heat tool is actually pointing at the area that you're melting. Okay. So I've now got my, white embossing in there that defines my floral. And you can see this one in here with the shimmer just drying. So then I'm going to come in now, like I did before. Let's take that floral off there. And let's use this one. I'm then going to come in with a little bit of picked raspberry. I'm also going to use seedless preserves. Just dip my hand in that one because I'm good like that. Look how different it looks when you do it like that. So let's take our brush now. Let's close that embossing powder. Dangerous leaving your embossing powder there. So then let's mix this. I'm going to take the purple. So let's take that purple. Let's give this a little bit more of that colour. So where the purple is on the flower, I'm just highlighting that a little bit more. Just wherever that purple is. I'm then going to come to the lovely pink. And add the pink. So again, it's up to you, but experiment with your products. If you don't experiment, you're never going to get anywhere. So I've got enough of that. So let's grab another Thrinchie. And we'll just dab these on here. Don't waste that pigment, she says as she drops it. Don't waste that pigment. So just keep that on there. So don't waste your pigment every time you use it. So then I'm going to take the fossilized amber and I'm going to add the fossilized amber to my project. And it's nice if it touches the previous colour, just bleeds into that. And you can come back to your other piece, you know, the Abutolon. Let's bring that Abutolon and not waste this pigment again. And just, I mean, this is the easiest method of colouring you're ever going to have. There we go. And then I'm just going to dab this onto an open area of the card. I'm then going to take the blue. So let's take peacock feathers. So we'll take some peacock feathers. So let's take the peacock feathers and have the peacock feathers. You're not going to get an easier way of colouring than this. So let's just have this. So I'm just using some of that blue. It doesn't matter if it goes over your embossing. There we go. And I can let that dry a bit. You can even bring back your Abutolon. The Abutolon's quite handy because just those little gaps just works perfectly. And again, just bring in another black Thrinchie and just add your excess ink to here. I can obviously dab some onto the dry one as well. Again, you can see that I'm not wasting that pigment. So we did them, we did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a little bit more of picked raspberry. And you can see I'm not hiding anything. There's no plan. You know, I'm having a play and I'm playing with my product and putting it through its paces, really. Because there's no point me stocking things in the shop and never using them. You know, we need to use them. We need to experiment with them. We need to play with them. Just to see exactly what we're going to get. Now, imagine this with the bell stencil. And you've got all the shimmer with the bell stencil. Or the snowman. But I'm being slightly awkward and showing that, you know, it doesn't, you know, shimmer isn't just for Christmas. It's for other times of the year as well. So I'm going to come down the stem here. I'm going to add a little bit of my colour down the stem. And then I'm going to add a few. Let's add a little bit more of that spot. So let's just take a little bit more. I'm going to take that and I'm going to add a few splatters. Just onto my card. Okay, not cleaned anything. I've got embossing powder everywhere, but there you go. So let's bring in one of the dry-ish ones and let's add this pigment to there, just so that we're not wasting. And what we're going to do is let's just have a little bit of a tidy up, because I've got plastic everywhere, bits of paper, just so we can see the wood for the trees. Well, I can't see the wood for the trees, whatever the saying is. So let's just move my Thrinchies that are a little bit covered in embossing powder. So let's just clean our area a little bit. Let's just take a look at what we've got. So we've got the one where we move the colour with the puffy, blowy, whatever. So just move that, and we had the excess from the previous Thrinchies as well. So I could have quite easily put that onto here, which we can do even now. We can cut it out and we can put that onto there, because we will create a card. So can you see you've now got the Abutilon on here as well, the lovely shimmer on there. Now say you decide, well, there's not much sort of, where are you, peeled paint or twisted citron. Say you want a few more greens on there, you can just give it a little spritz with some green. And they're quite forgiving. Oh, I'm turning the lid here. They're quite forgiving that you can just spritz a little bit. So we can just leave that for now. Let's give this a little bit of a dry. Don't give it too much. You've got that embossing on there. And the only reason I'm giving it as a little dry is I'm going to cut that out. You don't have to cut it out. You could leave it on there quite easily. But I'm going to cut that out now. So I didn't need to add any colour down here. Like so. And then what I'm going to do around the floral, right round the floral, you don't need to leave a border because you're going straight onto this black card. So you do want it so that that pops out a little bit. So again, it's your choice whether you keep it on this piece of card where you've got lovely bits of the shimmer as well. So I'm coming down and I'm just cutting out just so that some of those petals, come on, are actually loose. So you can see I'm coming down some of these petals right down here, as you can see, right down there. And you can see this is still wet. I've not dried it. But the only thing I'm doing is playing. That's all I'm doing. Okay. Because I've got all this card on here now. I normally cut it away, so I'm not faffing with so much card. Okay, so let's move that out of the way. So you can see I've got the shimmer still in there and it's still wet. So what I'm thinking then is I can add this to the background. You've got the background here with your shimmer. We've also got a Thrinchie here as well. So I'm going to give this a little bit more of a dry. Just giving that a little bit of a dry because it is absolutely soaking wet, but you can see I'm moving it so that it doesn't affect the embossing too much. Okay, just so that it doesn't affect that. Now let me just check. Let's grab this, and where are we? You know, I can't. So I'm going to pick a pencil. So in my case, a pink. And let's have, what colour paper? Shall we have that one? Okay. So I'm just picking a couple of my Prismacolor pencils because I can keep the shimmer because I don't want to, you know, get rid of all that shimmer that I've actually worked on, which would be such a shame. But what I'm going to do now is just dab this just so that I've not got any sort of big blobs of water. Let's take that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of definition. So I'm going to go round and just add a little bit of definition. It does help if I tell you what the colour is, doesn't it, really? So this is Mulberry PC 995. So I'm coming in and just adding a little bit of definition with my Mulberry. Now you're not eliminating all that beautiful shimmer that you've put on there. You're just sort of outlining the edges. Just outline those edges a little bit and add a little bit of colour here. So just outline the edges a little bit, like so. Just so that you've got a little bit of definition and a little bit of colour just on the edge, just sort of in the edge there, just to give that a little bit more definition. I'm then going to come with the hot pink. So let's grab the hot pink and just come in with a little bit of the hot pink. Just at the base, you're not covering the whole petal. So you're not covering that whole petal. Just with a little bit. Just so that you give your floral a little bit more definition. That's all you're doing. So you're just giving it a little bit more definition. So come in with your mulberry or whatever colour you want to add to define those edges a little bit more. It's entirely up to you how you define the edges. So define those a little bit more. There we go. Just define those a little bit more. So you've just come in and you've just given a little bit more definition to the floral. And then all you're going to do is let's take the Seedless Preserves, bring the acrylic block in again, bring my brush in, and I can come in and just add a little bit more of the shimmer on the top, because you want this to have the shimmer. Okay. So that is the Seedless Preserves. Obviously, play around with your colours. That's the whole point. Play around with those colours. And again, don't waste your ink. Just place that onto there. Let's place that on that dry there. Just keep using your extra pigment. Pink, picked raspberry. So just come in with the picked raspberry and just add a little bit of the picked raspberry. There we go. And then I'm going to use a little bit of the blue again. So peacock feathers. And sometimes it's a good idea just to spend the time putting a product, particularly if you don't put pink in the blue. Putting a product through its paces and maybe doing something, not what everybody else is doing, just experimenting with it in a different way, like I'm doing here. You know, I know they're designed, you spritz them, but we don't have to just spritz. So let's just add a little bit of that. And then shall we add a little bit of green? Which one are you going to use? Let's use Twisted Citron. And the fossilised amber is showing up quite nicely there. Make sure you shape those bottles. What colour am I using? Peel paint. It makes me laugh because when they come out, compared to when they go on the card, it's completely different. And I can see like the green in this, whereas you can't on here. Let's add a little bit of green in there. And what you want to do is let that dry naturally. So again, let's move that floral just out of the way. Bring this other piece of card in again and just add. And I'll lift this up just so you can see, because it looks gold on the acrylic block. And then when you lift it up, it's green. Just so you can see that. Let's bring in this one. I've got other backgrounds now that I can use for other projects. As you can see, I can use that for other projects, no problem at all. And then, what colour? Let's dry that a little bit. Let's just leave that there. And then we can bring in our floral that's going to go on our dramatic background, just so you can see. Obviously some of the colours, like the green here, is just drying. So I'm going to give that a little bit of a dry. see if that's dry. I've only got a few little bits now, so it's quite handy. It's just a few little bits. I'm then going to grab some white cotton so that we can place that white cotton on there, and I'm just going to dab any excess moisture just off there now. And I've got bits of green, bits of different colours on there. Let me just see if my fine liner will show. Yeah, so I'm coming down with my fine liner micron pen, and I'm just going to draw around with a fine liner now, just on the inside of the embossed area. So just drying, just going around and drawing on the inside of the embossed area. Just so you can, there we go. So I'm just using a micron pen just to go around where the card is rather than the embossing. To just, again, give a little bit more definition to my floral. I'm going to take some white cotton. So I'm just pulling that white cotton out. Obviously, you don't have to add the white embossing. You can just have kept it how it was. It's entirely up to you how you play with things. It's entirely up to you. So let's bend that one that way. That one, that one, that one. So I'm then going to use a little bit of pin flare and just add some of the pin flare. So if you didn't want to add the embossing, cut it out when you just spritz the colour through, and then do the defining like I did. So just adding a little bit of, let's bring this cotton up here a bit, and there we go. So we've got a little bit of cotton in there. So let's just grab my adhesive and just put a little bit on the stem. As you can hear, Tracy still needs to add a little bit more adhesive. So just place that down there, and I don't want to press it down too much. I want a little bit of definition. Grab hold. That's it. So for me, it's all about playing. I think it is. Just to bring everything to life. And obviously I'll decide to do something else to the floral when it isn't dry. You can see there's bits of green, bits of blue, just so you can see that. And you can still go in, if you wish, with more. So I can still come in and just add little bits more of the green if you wish. It's entirely up to you. So you can add a little bit more of the green. I'm adding direct from the bottle. And the problem is with me is when I play with a product, honestly, I just faff. There we go. I faff the whole time. Oh, And now we haven't got that stuck down because I'm faffing so much. Stay down. But that's the whole point of playing, really. So if we bring this one in, even though we've got 2 dots here, I'm just going to dab those. It's still got that green on there, just so that you can see that. And then I'm going to use my micron pen just to highlight just where the edges of the top of that floral just come together. Just bring, that's the problem with me, I do faff a lot. So then I'm going to just add a little bit of pink just at the very tips. So I'm doing like a little V at the bottom of each little piece, a little bit of a touch of pink. But again, I do not want to hide that shimmer, because that's the whole point. We don't want to hide the shimmer. You want to make sure that you can still see that. That doesn't need much because it just shows up really, really well. Just so that you can see that. I'm going to get the wording for this, which is from the Magnolia stamp set. So let's just grab my tray out. What number is Magnolia? There we go, 43. So on the stamp set number 43, we've got that Magnolia text that says Magnolia. And I just want a scrap of card. That will do. Less and less space available now. Let's just move that out of the way. So bring this Magnolia in. I'm going to use that black ink, which is my Nocturne ink. There we go. Let's place that back on the stamp. And we'll just cut that out. It's been absolutely pouring down here, but we do need it. There we go. I'm so surprised you couldn't hear the rain. It was coming down so fast. And hopefully, like me, you end up with lots of bits of paper everywhere. Now, you could take the snowman stencil, spritz through. Have I got any scrap? I mean, that's the Magnolia waste, isn't it? But you could even do it with the snowman, creating a simple card. So I'm going to add Magnolia across here, but I'm going to add, well, what I'm going to do first is cut that out a little bit straighter. There we go. I'm going to add just a little bit of a black edge. So I'm doing that on my paper. And you can see I've still got the shimmer on the white. I'm just adding a black edge. But don't be afraid to have a play with your products, and don't be afraid if it doesn't work out well. It doesn't matter. You can see my pieces are still drying here, but that's fine. Just want it. Let's put a little bit there, a little bit here. And then I'm just going to, it's still a bit wet under there, but there you go. So So I'm just going to use my scissors just to make sure that makes contact with the adhesive. That side's made contact. And then I'm going to add some white splatters just to my project. And we'll just let that dry a little bit more before we add to a card blank. Do you know, have I actually got a card? Do you know, I don't think I've got a card blank cut. That's handy, isn't it? Not. So we've got our Abutolon. So where's the Abutolon? We can add Abutolon to our little Thrinchie bit. And you know I'm going to cut out the card, don't you? Because that's just me all over. Let's grab that scrap of card again, because I do like to show them finished, because it makes a big difference. Take a Abutolon. And that is the only problem with me when I play. I just forget. I forget time. But I think it is important to have a play now and then. Not always coming up with something, just sometimes just to play and nothing else. But I've shown you that you can use your shimmer. You can use your pencils over your shimmer. You can use your shimmer through your stencils. I've shown that you can add detail on the top. You can paint with them. So it's just nice to have some sort of different options. I don't want to put the black outline on that one because it goes directly onto that black card. So let's have the Abutolon there. Now I should have added the white splatters to this before I added the Abutolon word, just so that your splatters don't go over your Abutolon word. So let's add splatters. What have you just done with the Posca pen? Why do I put the Posca pen in the wrong position? Let's just turn it. There we go. Let's bring in my book that has now got embossing powder all over the top. Let's move that out of the way a bit. So I can place my first one in here in my little book. So let's just have. I will also be showing you other things that you can do with your black Thrinchies, but obviously I had to do Spritz first because it's rude not to, really. I really had to do that first. So let's just give those hands a clean. But it looks so lovely in our book, just so you can see that. So I'm frantically going to cut a piece of white card so that we've got a card blank. What size is this? Let's have a look at that. So this is 4 by 6. There you go. What size is this card? No idea, but I'm going to use it. Let's find out what size it is. 4 by 6. So 4.5. So is it 5.5? 4.5. 5. I'm just seeing if I can use this scrap. No, I can't. Let's forget that. Right, let's find another card then. So I'm going to cut a card, so bear with me. Bear with me. So I'm just cutting the card on the floor, like you do. Because I want to show you how you can make it look. Okay. Well, that was handy, wasn't it? Right in the middle of the video. Right. So, we're going to add this to the white card, like so. So you can add that to the white card. Can you see? But what happens if we add it, let's just move this up a bit. If we add this to a white piece, so this is 4 by 6, this black piece. Let's find a piece 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So 4 1/4. No, so 6 1/4. My 4 1/4. So we add this to that, like so. And then we add it to a black mat. So if you find that when you're watching this video there's a little tiny gap, that's because I am going to edit out the alarm that went off, the warning alarm, which Tracy didn't even know about. So I've added this to a white card. So the black is 4 by 6, the mat is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. This black mat is 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, and then add it to your 5 by 7 card blank. Doesn't that make a difference? Absolutely does. So let's add that. Where's our adhesive gone? So we'll now add this to our white card blank. Now we've got bits of embossing powder on there, so I'm just making sure I've got some adhesive added in the middle. So let's add the adhesive in the middle, like so. That's it. So I'm just pressing this down just to make sure, and you can see it's still a bit wet there. And then I'm going to add this to another black mat. Like so. So the piece that we worked on, which is a black piece of Pink Frog True Black card, which I cut from an A3 piece, and then we went on to a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 white card, then on a piece of black card 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, and then onto a 5 by 7 card. And I really think this is when you can change it with your matting and layering, however you want to change that. So then add that to there, like so. Just straighten that a little bit. There we go. That's it, just so that you can see that. And obviously we still got little bits on that need to dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Posca pen, and I'm just going to add, let's make sure that Posca pen is working. I am just going to add 3 dots here, 3 dots there, just to add to my design. And again, you can see I've still added layers of that as well. So I'm going to add a little bit of white. Now I would probably use my bleed proof. So let's grab the bleed proof with a fine brush preferably. So I'm going to grab my bleed proof Dr. P.H. Martin's. Let me just grab a little bit of water. Just grab a little bit of water, and I'm just going to pick the pigment up, and I'm going to add the bleed proof, just a little bit, just to my florals a little. And a little bit of paint goes a long way with this. So again, it's entirely up to you if you want to add a few touches of the white. I can come in and just do those dots again, just with that bleed proof, just so that it makes a difference, because you can actually see that then. There we go. Now when you use the bleed proof, don't forget to use your water just to give that, you know, a good rinse out, because it's highly pigmented, as you can see. So let's bring in our book. So you've got your little Thrinchie, you can see. You can still add a bird on there or whatever you wish. Now imagine this with the light bulbs or the baubles. It should just work really beautifully. So I hope you've enjoyed my little creative time, and I hope you'll give that a go. So let me bring those in. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.